following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Detroit.
Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit is presented by Bell Tire. It is a spectacular day for baseball on the banks of the Allegheny. Today, the Tigers will bring to a close the first part of their 8-game road trip. Welcome to PNC Park. We're in Pittsburgh today. The Detroit Tigers and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to Tigers baseball. Mario and Pepper, Ron Allen. Glad to have you with us here for the final game of this two-game set against between these two teams. The Pirates will throw Garrett Cole. The Tigers, Jordan Zimmerman. We'll start with Zimmerman, Ron. He's been awfully good.
Well, Zimmerman's one of those guys that Tigers went out and signed to a free agent contract because they knew that one thing he would do, he would take the ball every fifth day. Lots of starts last year. As a matter of fact, in the last 4 years, he has made at least 32 starts and pitched at least 190 innings. Good fastball, 92, 93, good curveball as well. He'll need that changeup, however, this afternoon to slow down these Pittsburgh Pirates.
All right, now the other part of this dynamic pitching matchup today is Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole did not have a really good start his first time out against the Reds, but boy, against the Tigers, he's been pretty good.
You know, he's one of the best right-handers in our sport. He's got a power fastball. Fastball will get all the way up to 99 miles an hour. He also throws quite a few sinkers, and he's got a nice slider. Very few off-speed pitches. You take a look at his 2 career starts against the Tigers. He's handled them. 2.13 ERA, 14 strikeouts, just 2 base on balls. But one thing the Tigers can do, they have an outstanding fastball hitting team. They take great approaches against guys like Cole. They'll need that today.
What do you got on Ian Kinsler? He's been red hot to start the year. A couple of home runs 2 nights ago and yesterday, and he's really been red hot.
Well, since the second half of last year, there's only a few guys that have more hits than Ian Kinsler. That's just how good he has been. And for me, it's simple. It's approach. One of the things that he is starting to do, he is starting to take base hits the other way, also hitting for much more power. That's what happens when you drive the ball in the opposite direction. Look at the start he's off to this year, one of the best of his career, 355 with 3 homers, 8 RBIs, and he's already scored 9 runs. He's been some kind of table setter for the Tigers, whether it be Upton, whether it be Miggy, JD, or Victor. He has been the straw that has been stirring the drink at the top of that Tigers batting order.
Hopefully he'll keep stirring here today as we bring you the final game in this series. After a short break, we'll send you back to the Coliseum Studios. Check in with John Keating. Coming up today, how about the Tigers bullpen? Last night, Justin Wilson was lights out. More of the same today, hopefully. Tigers, Pirates, next. George Kell used to say it's a bright, sunshiny day here in Pittsburgh. A gorgeous afternoon. The Tigers and the Pirates. The starting lineup for the Tigers today presented by the Southeast Michigan Ford dealers. It'll be Ian Kinsler to start things off for the Tigers. Then Upton and Cabrera. J.D. Martinez off to a red-hot start this year. 10-game hitting streak against the Pirates as well. Castellanos and Collins in center. Wilson, Romine, Zimmerman rounding out the Tigers starting 9, and they are facing the right-handed offerings of Garrett Cole.
He did not pitch very well in his first start of the year against the Cincinnati Reds, but he does not pitch historically well against Cincinnati. He has had a couple of good games against the Tigers. Fastball will get up to 99 miles an hour. Also a really good slider thrown by Garrett Cole. He'll mix in some curveballs and an occasional changeup. Tigers hitters need to get ready to hit that heater.
Tigers winner last night and hoping to sweep this 2-game series before they head to Houston after the ball game here today. The first pitch of today's game is up high to Ian Kinsler. He'll be followed by Upton and Cabrera. Ian has homered in each of his last 2 ball games, and he looks at a strike on the outer edge. Garrett Cole, 25 years old and native of Newport Beach in California. Here's the 1-1. Tied him up, but he held his swing up, it appeared, and he did not. 1-2.
From Newport Beach and went to college at UCLA.
And Garrett Cole, one of the bright young pitchers in the National League and really all of baseball. 19-game winner last year. Here's the 1-2. Ooh, man, was that nasty.
Filthy.
1 out.
This is what he will do to the right-handers. He will start the breaking ball right at the right-handed batters, and you see Ian Kinsler, he froze and the ball caught the inside part of the plate. It's an outstanding pitch by Garrett Cole. Let's take a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates starting defense. It's presented by Tim Hortons. Talented outfield. Marte, McCutchen, Polanco. Up the middle, Mercer, Harrison. On the corners, Freeze, Jaso. And Stewart is the catcher today.
Upton lines one to right field, but straight at Gregory Polanco. Hard hit ball for out number 2. Couple of quick outs for Garrett Cole. Now a good matchup here. Miguel Cabrera facing Cole. Miggy last night was 1 for 4. He's off to a .269 start with 1 home run.
Yeah, usually Garrett Cole likes to pound Miguel Cabrera inside with lots of fastballs. We'll see how he attacks him today. Tigers are ready to hit that fastball, aren't they?
Oh, man.
It's a great at-bat by Justin Upton. Driving that ball the opposite way, which is what you need to do against power guys like Cole. You don't want to try to pull them. Simply take what he gives you, drive the ball up the middle and the other way.
Swing and a miss. 95 at the letters, and he threw it by him. For Miguel Cabrera, the 1 home run was hit back at Comerica Park on the first homestand of the year. And Miggy swings and misses. Another heater, and he blew him away. Garrett Cole looking sharp early in this game. As we go to the bottom of the first inning here at PNC Park, the Pirates starting lineup presented today by the Metro Detroit Chevy dealers. For the Buccos this afternoon, John Jaso leads it off. He's reached base safely in all 8 that he's played in this year. McCutchen and Freese to follow. Then Marte, Polanco, and Harrison in the middle of their lineup. Jordy Mercer playing short. Chris Stewart is catching this afternoon. Garrett Cole is batting 9. And the Pirates will face Jordan Zimmerman, presented today by Family Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
And Zimmerman pitched on Friday at Comerica Park. He walked 3 in that game, which is very unusual for him. Clint Hurdle told me yesterday his team will probably be a little bit more aggressive against Zimmerman because his history is throwing lots of strikes. Fastball 92 to 94, a couple different breaking balls, and an occasional changeup.
Castellanos shifting to the other side of the infield. He's in short right field. And the first one home is a strike called on John Jaso. 4-game hit streak for Jaso, off to a .313 start. Yanked fouled at first base.
Well, Jaso doing exactly as the Pirates knew that he would do. They knew he would have a nice high on base percentage and he would get on base frequently, which he has done since putting on their uniform.
Jaso, career on base percentage of .361. He's well above that early in the going here in 2016. Smothered behind home plate there by Wilson. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Saltalamacchia gets the day off with the day start after the night game last night, although Salty provided the grand slam last evening. He'll get back out of play. 1-2. The count stays on Jaso.
I talked to several people regarding Bobby Wilson, who is catching Zimmerman here today for the very first time. He has been in the big leagues. The scouting report on him is he's an outstanding catch and throw guy. He's not going to give you a whole lot of bat, but he can really handle a pitching staff and he can really throw.
Swing and a miss. Jaso is retired. 1 gone.
Let's take a look at the Tigers starting defense presented by Beaumont Health. In the outfield, it's Upton, Collins, and J.D. Martinez. Romine gets his first start of the year at shortstop. Kinsler at second. Castellanos and Miggy on the corners. And we told you that Bobby Wilson is catching his first game as a Tiger this afternoon.
Here is Andrew McCutchen with 1 out. And McCutchen so far this year against the Tigers only 2 for 13. He did drive in a run last night with a double late in the 8th inning. 1 ball, 1 strike on the talented center fielder of the Pirates. .257 batting average early on here. Strike called on the outer edge. McCutchen didn't like it.
It's a real nice cut fastball there thrown by Zimmerman at about 90 miles an hour, right at the knees. Nice job by Wilson as well, ever so slightly pulling that ball up in the strike zone.
Ooh, man, Zimmerman comes right back at 94 and a swing and a miss. 2 gone. Today's field conditions are presented by Ace Hardware and the Scotts Company. 61 degrees at game time. It is scheduled to get up to about 65 degrees or so today. It's sunny, it's clear, and a gorgeous afternoon in Pittsburgh for game 2 in the series. Strike 1 on David Freese. Freese batting .303. He was 2 out of 3 in the ball game last night, plus a walk. He'll drive this one to right field. That'll get down a base hit. Martinez will backhand it in right field and hold Freese to a 2-out single. First hit of the ball game today for either side. That'll bring up Starling Marte. Marte off to a nice start. 306, couple of home runs for the Pirates, a team that really does not have a whole lot of power. And he'll drive this one back up the middle into center. Back-to-back base hits for the Pirates with 2 outs.
It's a slider away from Marte right off the end of the bat. And it landed softly in center field for a single.
Zimmerman in his first start against the Yankees threw 100 pitches, 64 for strikes, and he was mostly fastball slider in that game.
There was quite a few left-handers in the Yankees starting lineup that day. And as we see a left-hander here in Gregory Polanco, expect a couple of change-ups out of Zimmerman. It's not a pitch that he's all that comfortable with yet, but he threw it a lot in spring training. He threw quite a few in that first outing against the Yankees, and he'll probably use a couple here today in certain situations against certain lefties.
Polanco looks at ball one. The fastball sitting at about 94 early in the ball game today for Zimmerman. Polanco at 286. Picked up an RBI in last night's game, finished 0 for 4 in the contest. That's outside, 2-0.
Bobby Wilson, the catcher today, obviously has not caught Zimmerman, but one of the things that he did do once he was called up after the McCann injury is he tried to catch as many guys in a bullpen session as he could, and Zimmerman happened to be one of those guys. Doesn't simulate the same as game speed, but he has an idea of what Zimmerman wants to do out there.
He has fallen behind 2-0 with a couple of runners on, 2 outs. And he'll take a strike on the outer edge. Zimmerman, a 13-game winner with Washington last year, had an ERA of 3.66. It's amazing he pitched all those years in the National League, but he hasn't really seen the Pirates a whole lot. Here's the 2-1. 3-1 now on Gregory Polanco. Should he reach, Josh Harrison is waiting on deck. The Pirates jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the first inning last night before the Tigers came back. Here's the 3-1. And he lost it, ball 4. That is Polanco's 11th walk, which leads the National League. And it loads the bases with 2 outs for Harrison.
And here's the pitch usage of Zimmerman last year. Lots of four-seam fastballs, lots of sliders, very few curveballs. So mostly hard stuff thrown by Zimmerman last year, but I just told you that he's been working on a changeup, so he will incorporate a few of those this season.
Well, he's in a 2-out jam here after striking out Jaso and McCutchen, a couple of singles and a walk. And Harrison drives one to right, foul. Harrison had his 4-game hitting streak come to a close in last night's ball game, batting .250. Made a nice play at second base last night as well, a diving play. And he has started every game at second this year. Of course, Neil Walker has moved on.
And Pirates have a very athletic team. Harrison would fall into that category. And also their trio of outfielders, McCutchen and Polanco and Marte. Jody Mercer, pretty good athlete too. Jordy Mercer,
Here's the 0-1. Strike called, 0-2.
That's a well-located fastball at 95 inside. Already a couple of these Pittsburgh Pirates not all that happy with the strike zone of Jerry Meals this afternoon.
Yeah, that last one was certainly borderline. And the 0-2. Rolled it foul. Tigers with their win last night, now 5-2. The Pirates at 5-4. Brad Ausmus, by the way, celebrating a birthday today, 47 years of age. Happy birthday, Brad.
Said he feels great.
And again the 0-2. fouled away. Have you ever seen Austin's workout in the workout room?
I have seen him down there.
He is an absolute fiend, and he is probably in as good a shape as anybody on the current roster for the Tigers.
He is probably in better shape now than he was when he was a player.
And again, Zimmerman ready to tee up the 0-2. And a ground ball to short. Right there is Romine, and the threat is over. So they load the bases, they'll leave them full, and we go to the second.
We told you that Cole is one of the best right-handers in our sport. Got a power fastball that he throws upstairs that gets up to 98 miles an hour. Then once he gets you looking for that fastball upstairs, he'll pull the string with breaking balls down and a nice little two-seamer as well, fading away from the left-handed batters. His stuff is really, really good.
Here's the pitch usage for Garrett Cole.
And you can see that changeup. He only throws it about 4% of the time, but in his last start against the Cincinnati Redlegs, a team that he struggles against, he threw that pitch 12% of the 100 pitches that he threw in that game. So he's working on his changeup as well.
He was a 4-pitch guy in that start. He threw 100 pitches in that game against the Reds. His fastball in that game was sitting 95 to 98. And he'll go back to work here in the second. It'll be J.D. Martinez, Nick Castellanos, Tyler Collins.
Cole was slowed down a little bit in spring training with a rib injury. And most of his work came on the backfields against minor leaguers, which is kind of different. You want to make as many starts against the big leaguers as you can, but in order for them to get his pitch count up, he had to work on the backfields quite a bit.
Here's the 1-1. Well, in spring training, at least on the big league side, he made only 2 starts and threw 6 2/3 innings, and you just can't replicate. I mean, even spring training, the adrenaline is not the same, but boy, when you get in the backfield, it's even less. Checked it. He went around. And Garrett Cole has another strikeout, his 3rd already.
Well, you can already see that he's incorporating that really slow breaking ball into his repertoire here in the second inning, because he knows the Tigers have an outstanding fastball hitting team, and he's not going to overpower them all day with the fastball.
If the Pirates didn't know the Tigers could hit a fastball, they found out last night. And it started with Cabrera against Caminero. And that decisive 6th inning in which the Tigers pounded the hard-throwing reliever for the Pirates.
Yeah, Castellanos had a hit in that inning as well. Then the bases were loaded, and that when Saltalamacchia hit the grand slam.
Nick batting .269. No balls, 2 strikes on the Tigers' 3rd baseman.
The Pirates do this as well as any team in Major League Baseball, and that's a heavy dose of inside fastballs in the mid-90s by a lot of their starters. They are not afraid to pitch inside.
And typically, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Rod, but when you're pitching inside and you're a hitter, if you do make contact, more times than not, it's going to be off the label of the bat.
Yeah, you're not going to barrel it up unless you have a classic swing like a Miguel Cabrera guy that likes to drive the ball the opposite way, pulling his hands in nicely.
Now, when you pitch inside, you hit a lot of batters, and the Pirates have done that. Half swing down the left field line, foul.
Yeah, they get hit a lot, too. Just ask Andrew McCutcheon. Cole slip after this pitch? Sure did.
It could possibly be the last thing the Pirates wanted to see happen in this game, is Garrett Cole falling down and injuring himself. He's ahead 0-2 on Castellanos.
Yeah, they already have one starter that's battling a tender hamstring. That would be Francisco Liriano, who could not start in last night's game.
Ryan Vogelsong got the call last night and pitched pretty well early against the Tigers. Their bullpen could not hold a lead, though. Here's the 1-2. Again, coming inside. That one fouled off.
Garrett Cole is not a comfortable at bat. Fastballs in the mid-90s. He can get all the way up to 99. Real good slider. Then he'll slow you down with that breaking ball.
High fly ball. That's into right field for Polanco. 2 up, 2 down. There's only one right-hander that has had more strikeouts in a season than Garrett Cole, and that's A.J. Burnett.
Wow.
I mean, you're talking about two guys in the history of the Pirates that are right-handers that have struck out 200 or more. There's only two of them, Burnett and Cole. 5 in a row set down by the right-hander, and Tyler Collins looks at a strike. Collins, his second start in center field this season, spelling Anthony Ghost today. He'll pop this in the air to shallow left field. Playable for Marte, and it's going to be another 1-2-3 inning for Garrett Cole. Two in Pittsburgh. The Tigers and Pirates wrapping up this series. We check in now with Johnny Kane. More on today's starting catcher Bobby Wilson.
Well, thanks, Mario. You know, Rod hit on it there that Bobby has a little familiarity with Jordan Zimmerman, having caught a bullpen for him. But talking to Brad Ausmus earlier today, in all his years in the major leagues, he said there were times when he met a pitcher for the very first time when he came to the hill. He said maybe it was an early morning call-up. Reliever came in the 7th inning, and Brad would say, how do you do? I have 2 questions for you. What's your best off-speed pitch, and what's your best breaking ball? And then they went to work, guys.
Yeah, suited up and let's go play. And that's basically what Wilson has been able to do, or has had to do, with Zimmerman aside from that bullpen session.
That is a definition of keeping it simple.
Simpler the better. Jordy Mercer leading it off for the Pirates. He'll send a ground ball back up the middle. Romine, nice play.
Ooh.
Wow. Andrew covered a lot of ground there. 1 gone.
He obviously does not have the range of an Iglesias out there, but he's pretty sure-handed at that shortstop position. Ranging far to his left and then throwing off balance, but also throwing accurately into Miguel Cabrera.
Romine for Iglesias today, and that was an Iglesias type play.
And Romine last year played 5 different positions for the Tigers.
Here's Chris Stewart. Stewart 2 out of 4 this year. He homered in his first at bat of the season. That was against the Reds, and it was Stewart's first home run in the big league since 2013.
Really?
It had been a while. They've got a pretty good catching tandem here. Cervelli and Stewart have both gotten off to good starts offensively. Zimmerman with the 1-1, and it's a strike on the outer edge.
A lot of movement today on the Zimmerman cut fastball. He will go upstairs with the 4-seam fastball. He's gotten all the way up to 96 here today, but it's been that cutter and the breaking ball that have been his pitches of choice so far.
One and 2 the count. Stewart's been well traveled. Yankees, San Francisco, San Diego.
You know what we always say about that backup catcher's gig? It's a good one if you can get it.
Best gig in baseball. Well, one of the best. Now the 1-2 again, and he fouled it off. And that one nicked Wilson. Right forearm. Wilson, of course, called up with the injury to James McCann. Saltalamacchia taking over the starter's role behind the dish, but he gets the day off today, and already it's starting to swell up.
Yeah, Kevin Rand and Brad are going to have to come out and take a peek at him. We're starting to see more and more guys, even when there's not runners on base, they have their hand in front of their body. It used to be a thing, Mario, where unless there was a runner on base, most catchers had that hand behind their back. But look at where his hand is. Usually this is a better position for the hand when you have to anticipate a base runner possibly stealing, not so much when there's nobody on base.
Well, that was a direct hit. When Vance Wilson was catching here with the Tigers, he did the same thing. He never protected that hand. And I asked him one day why he never did that. He said it was just a comfort thing, and he just preferred to catch that way. And he said very rarely do you get a foul ball come straight back. Well, Wilson got one there.
I don't know what they'll do here now, but once he comes back out next half inning, they'll put some kind of compression tape on that forearm to make sure they keep that swelling down. Like a mosquito bite to Wilson.
Maybe just a little bit more than that. It's an awfully big mosquito. 1-2. High and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Pirates threatened in the first inning. 2 out singles and then a walk to load the bases, but Harrison grounded out. Zimmerman was able to pitch out of that first inning jam. Two balls, 2 strikes. Waiting on deck is Garrett Cole. Pirates wearing their camouflage jerseys today. Every Thursday is a military appreciation day here in Pittsburgh. They honor the vets, and so part of that is the camouflage jerseys.
They've got a nice crowd here for a day game. 12:30 start.
Not bad at all. In the air to the right side where Cabrera is in foul ground, and they finally dispatch Stewart.
You know, we were talking about Wilson and how tough he is. Take a look at this play back in 2010. Mark Teixeira running and scoring from second base. That is violence.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
I could think of a handful of injuries that would result from that collision. It would turn out to be a concussion and a knee injury. It put him on the DL, but man, those were in the old days where those collisions happen more frequently than they do now with the new rules at home plate. That's about as bad as you can see a collision. Garrett Cole stands in, looks at a strike, 1-1. Cole is a career 171 hitter. When you include the numbers this year, he's got 1 home run. There's a strike call. 1-2. And he just missed outside. Zimmerman thought he had strike 3. Was a step and a half back to the dugout. Pretty close. That's strike 3. Down goes Cole in a 1-2-3 inning for Jordan Zimmerman. Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit is brought to you by Comerica Bank. Raise your expectations of what a bank can be when it's time. Come to Comerica. And by Dodge. Hurry into the Dodge Spring Clearance event and experience the power of the Dodge lineup. Tigers fans aplenty here in Pittsburgh, as usually is the case. They are strolling around PNC Park today,
wearing those jerseys proudly.
Meanwhile, in between the half inning, as you mentioned, there they are. They're bandaging up Wilson.
Yeah, that little compression patch they put on, and wrap it up and make sure they can try to keep that swelling down until he can get some ice on it after the game.
So Garrett Cole goes back to the mound, and that's what happened between the innings. And now Wilson stands in here to start things off in the top of the third. It'll be Wilson, Romine, and Zimmerman, bottom 3 facing Cole. 6 up, 6 down so far for the Pirates right-hander. 2-0 the count. Driven to right field. And Polanco will run it down. Second hard hit ball out to right field in this game for the Tigers. Upton had the other.
This ball took off on Polanco. I don't think he thought this ball was going to travel as far as it did, and he really had to reach up behind him to make that play. They've got some really good outfielders here in Pittsburgh, but many believe that this young man right here is going to be the best of the three when it's all said and done, and the other two are outstanding.
No kidding. He's talking about McCutchen and Marte. A lot of skill out there.
And McCutchen has already won an MVP, 5-time All-Star. Marte won a Gold Glove last year and has 30-30 potential.
Romine the batter. I was talking to Andrew, who has a new number this year. He had to give up 27 to Jordan Zimmerman, the starting pitcher today for the Tigers. Zimmerman came over and asked him, you know what, I'd love your number.
What'd he get for it?
Well, I said to Andrew, I said, you had to get something for it. He goes, you know, I told him, you can have the number. I don't want anything. And toward the end of spring training, Zimmerman came into the clubhouse with 4 beautiful watches and said, pick one.
Ooh.
And the teammates were saying, pick them all. Don't pick just one. And Andrew really kind of reluctantly said, all right, I'll take a watch. And that's how it went down.
Wonderful.
Andrew said, I really wasn't attached to 27. That's why I just wanted to give it to him. And there's the new number 27 waiting on deck. 3-1 pitch. Fly ball in the air to center field. McCutchen is on his horse, still going back to the warning track. 2 gone.
McCutchen is straight away center field. This ball is in left center field, but he takes a beeline, I mean a straight line, to get to this ball, and he makes a play that appears to be somewhat difficult, rather routine.
So for Garrett Cole now, he's retired 8 straight to start this game. There's a strike on Zimmerman.
He is pitching much better here today than he pitched against the Cincinnati Reds in his first start of the year. But Clint Hurdle, he expected that out of Garrett Cole. 19-game winner a season ago.
Yeah, so did Ray Searage, their pitching coach. He felt that he was a little bit rusty in that first start because of a lack of a lot of work in spring training. But the numbers in his career speak for themselves.
He doesn't pitch very well against the Cincinnati Reds anyway. Of all the teams that he's gone up against, that's the team he's had no success against. He is 0-5 against Cincinnati with an ERA over 5.
Oh.
And they don't have the most potent offense in the National League.
No, not with a skill set that Cole has as well. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Zimmerman. There's a ball. Did he check the swing in time? 2-2. Three strikeouts already for Garrett Cole. And he's got his 4th. Caught him looking. Tigers go 1-2-3 in the 3rd. Notes from around Major League Baseball. Did you see the night that Nolan Arenado had last night?
He can play. What an outstanding two-way player for the Colorado Rockies.
Rod, I'm starting to feel sorry for the Twins. Just a little bit. I mean, they're 0-8 so far this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. How about this, though? First team with more strikeouts than hits in each of their first 8 games since 1893. That's bad.
Yeah, that's of historic proportions. Manny Machado leads the major leagues with 15 hits this year, and so Manny off to a good start, and really so are the Orioles.
And Manny's going to win an MVP before it's all said and done.
There are 2 teams that are 0-8, Minnesota and Atlanta. They just continue to lose here to start the brand new season. John Jaso leads it off as we go to the Pirates part of the third. It'll be Jaso, McCutchen, and Freese. First one is hammered in the air to right center field. It'll be Collins to make the play. 1 pitch, 1 out. Time for a game break now. Back to the studio in Mickey York. Great to see the playoffs back at the Palace. Pistons back in the postseason. Here is McCutchen with 1 gone.
And Red Wings lost their game last night down in Tampa, but it's still mind-boggling to me the fact that they have gone to the playoffs 25 years in a row. 25 years in a row they've gone to the postseason.
Just wouldn't have seemed right without them this year. Of course, they had to go to the very last day, despite losing the last day. The Red Wings rather found themselves back in the playoffs. Here's the 0-2. Ball high, 1-2 on McCutchen.
Last night, good night for sports, however, and despite the Wings losing, Tigers won. And did you see what Kobe Bryant did in this final game out in Los Angeles at the Staples Center?
How do you drop 60 in your final game? I mean,
he took 50 shots. But they said that it was just a magical place last night. And what I like, Mario, is around baseball, there were a lot of guys that were wearing batting gloves and things to honor Kobe Bryant last night. These are Major League Baseball players that were honoring a basketball player.
50 shots. I'm told that was more than he took when he scored 81 earlier in his career. So.
And then, of course, the Warriors. They won 73 games, new record. So good night last night.
A really fun night all around professional sports. It's pounded back out of play. 3-2 on McCutchen. McCutchen, a strikeout victim back in the first inning. Just off the end of the bat, foul. Pirates able to load the bases in the first with 2 outs. They couldn't get a run in, though, and since then Jordan has really settled in. He got the ground out from Harrison in the first, a 1-2-3 second. Settling in to be what we expected, a good pitching matchup. Oh, he lost in ball 4, and so McCutchen gets a 1-out walk. Second walk issued by Zimmerman. Fans, stay tuned to Tigers Live. Following the game, we'll select the Fox Sports Detroit Tigers Player of the Game, presented by McDonald's. Stop by for your breakfast favorites, now being served all day. Kind of hoping for breakfast at the ballpark here today.
I was too.
Media dining room, and there was no breakfast.
Yeah, they fed us dinner.
Pretty much. At 10:30 in the morning. Here's David Freese. Strike 1 on Freese.
And Zimmerman does a real nice job at slowing down the running game. Takes very little time getting the ball out of his hand into the catcher's glove. He also has a pretty quick move. He's got some pretty quick feet. He's a good athlete on the mound. I told you this in his first start on Friday at Comerica Park. He was a 3-sport star in Wisconsin in high school. played football. He played basketball. And in one game in football, 11 catches for over 300 yards for Zimmerman. Auburndale High School.
Well, when you talk about the Midwest, whether it's Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, there have been some players come out of those cold weather states and make it to the big leagues. Zimmerman certainly has been the pride of Auburndale. Fouled away. Jordan, of course, threw a no-hitter with the Nationals in 2014, the first no-hitter in Nats history.
He did that on the final day of the regular season that year.
Went out with a bang. Free sends a ground ball hit slowly towards short. Romine guns across the diamond. 2 gone, advance the runner. Here's the Chevy Silverado most dependable players. Want to talk about the lowest walks per 9. Now, Zimmerman does have a couple in this game today, but by and large, Ron, he doesn't have too many.
Well, he doesn't beat himself. And we've talked about the fact that he throws lots of strikes, doesn't walk many. And when there is a runner on, he keeps him close and keeps his double plays in order.
There's that stat that really is amazing. Zimmerman has not walked 2 straight batters in 124 straight starts now. Here's Starling Marte. Singled in the first inning. And Marte is fooled 0-1. Marte won a batting title in the minor leagues. That was back in 2011 when he was playing in Double-A. Here's the 0-1. Back to monitor. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Not a bad pitch at all. Might not be all bad to double up with a fastball in there. That's the last thing that Marte is looking for. He's looking out over the plate.
You know what they call it here in Pittsburgh when Marte has a walk-off winner?
Marte parte.
Here's the 1-1 pitch. You are ready for that one.
Might be early, but you can't get much. You can't get that past me today.
You had some good coffee this morning?
I had some good coffee. A couple of cups.
2 balls, 1 strike on Marte. Bouncing ball to short. Romine ranging left. Bobbles. And he has no play. Everybody is safe. First and third now with 2 outs. He's 6. The normally sure-handed Andrew Romine. But it happens.
And ball just came up on him, and then it crawled up the arm, and then he went to pick it up and wasn't looking at it because he was looking at the base runner there. First error of the season for Romine.
So that'll extend the inning and give Polanco an opportunity. That is just the 3rd error this season for the Tigers. They had committed the fewest amount of errors in the American League. Really tied for all of baseball. Polanco had a walk in his first at bat. Looks at ball 1.
Just about everything that the Tigers have thrown at Polanco in the 4-game series has been fastballs away. A lot of pitches away.
Polanco was 0 for 9 coming into this ball game before walking in his first at bat. He's still in a bit of a stretch right now in which he's trying to bust out of. He's ahead in the count here. 2 balls and no strikes. Chase the runner back at first base.
Pirates have played really well in this ballpark. Last year they were 53-28 on their home field. They had the runner on the move there and is fouled straight back. 2-1. It has been tough to beat Pittsburgh in this yard.
It is it's a great ballpark to pitch in. And then when you add in the advanced analytics that Pittsburgh has used for the number of years, their position players always seem to be in the right place. And it helps out their pitching staff. Several guys that came here did not have good years, but after they got to Pittsburgh, because of Ray Searage, the pitching coach, and the analytics, which placed defenders in proper places, guys have resurrected their careers.
Driven down the left field line, foul. Well, the Pirates won nearly 100 games last year, 98 victories.
Edinson Volquez comes to mind, now pitching for the Pirates. A.J. Burnett had a couple good years here. Jason Grilli resurrected his career here. Mark Melanson, their closer. And really the list goes on and on and on. Jay Happ. It's a lot of guys.
That's why a lot of teams, if someone is struggling with a certain team, they'll take a chance on a really good arm because they think that their guy might be able to turn them around. Well, Ray Searage has done that.
That's right.
Again, the runner was on the move. 2-2, the count stays on Polanco. I mean, how many times you see that guy that has that electric arm that for whatever reason has not been able to put it together? He becomes available and everybody thinks that their pitching coach can get him turned around because the talent is there. But there really have been few guys that have been able to pull it off. Hickey comes to mind in Tampa Bay.
He's a good one.
This time a throw back. Again chasing Marte back to the bag. Pirates have had the only scoring chances here this afternoon. The Tigers have gone 9 up, 9 down against Garrett Cole.
It's a pretty quick move there by Zimmerman. We told you about the athleticism that he has on the pitcher's mound. Really quick feet. His move almost as quick as Verlander's. Verlander has picked off a lot of base runners since coming to the big leagues in 2006.
Just off the plate, 3-2.
Polanco has had a couple of really good at-bats against Zimmerman. You talked about it earlier. What does he have, 11 base on balls already this year?
Yeah.
So he's obviously seeing the ball well right now.
And that last pitch was a really good take just off the edge of the plate. They will start the runner Marte at first base with 2 outs. And a ground ball to short. Romine has this one, and that is that for the Pirates. They threaten but do not score as we go to the 4th. Tigers have the top lineup coming up. Kinsler, Upton, and Miggy. Top of the 4th inning here in Pittsburgh. No score in this one so far, and the Tigers will send up Ian Kinsler. It also brings us to the Bernstein advantage. Ian Kinsler hit his 3rd home run of the season in last night's ball game, and this is how many games it took him to get to 3 home runs. 33 games a couple of years ago, 84 games last year, and only 7 games to reach that plateau this year. So that speaks to the red hot start that Ian has had.
Ian has simply been on point since July 1st of last year.
Garrett Cole goes back to work and throws strike 1.
Only 2 players in Major League Baseball have gotten more hits than Ian Kinsler since July 1st of last year. And that would be a couple of middle infielders. One we'll see in a couple of days, Altuve. And the other one is Bogarts of the Boston Red Sox.
Kinsler struck out back in the 1st inning. 1-1 is fouled off.
And Altuve, he getting 200 knocks a year. Here's this big fly last night by Ian Kinsler to straightaway center field, 399 feet away from home plate.
8 RBIs as well for Kinsler. Well, Garrett Cole has not allowed a hit so far in this game or a base runner, and he's starting to put together a pretty good dynamic with their starting catcher today, and Chris Stewart.
He has been overpowering. Fastball 96, 97. That's the average fastball.
Into shallow left center field, and that is going to drop. Base hit. First Tigers hit of the afternoon. Single by Kinsler.
Here's what you're talking about, Mario, the working relationship between Stewart and also Cole. In 21 games last year, 2.21 ERA when Stewart was behind the plate, and in 12 games with Cervelli behind the plate, the ERA a full run higher. So these guys are working well together. Clint Hurdle will not say he's the personal catcher here of Garrett Cole, but you have to believe that he's going to catch the majority of his starts with numbers like that.
There is something to those numbers. And you can say it's coincidence, whatever you want, but I mean, that's a full run higher.
And you add in the fact that Cervelli caught his first start of this year, and it didn't go very well against Cincinnati. No disrespect to Cervelli. He is a good catcher, but these two guys, for whatever reason, they work very well together.
Upton hit the ball hard his first time up, lined out to right field. Missing high and away. Well, last year when Stewart caught Cole, the record for Garrett Cole was 12-4 with a 2.23 ERA. And as we mentioned, a really good tandem here. Cervelli and Stewart behind the dish. Good hack there by Upton, and the count now 1-1 strike.
Cole did not like the location of that last fastball. When he got the ball back from the catcher Stewart, he simply snatched it. He knows that he got away with a fastball right down the middle there to a dangerous fastball hitter in Justin Upton. Well, you're starting to see more and more pitchers in the big leagues really hold that ball on the mound, which disrupts the timing of the base runner. You don't have to have a great move these days to shut down the running game. Just simply hold that ball until the base runner becomes impatient.
Well, when the Tigers had Max Scherzer, he took it to a new level. He would hold the baseball, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 seconds.
And what you're starting to see now is when pitchers are working in the bullpen in between starts, they are practicing holding the baseball for 5, 6, 7 seconds.
Upton checked it. He went around. 2-2. Ron Culpa said that he went. What do you think?
Yeah, he probably went too far.
Cabrera waiting on deck. No score. We're in the 4th. Leadoff single by Kinsler. 97. Missed the inside corner, 3-2.
I don't know what Brad is going to do here. Ian Kinsler obviously can steal a base. The Tigers as a team do not have a steal all year. But Upton's been swinging and missing a lot. So if you do send him, you run the risk of him getting thrown out at second.
Runner holds, and it's fouled back.
And the guy standing in the batter's box, excuse me, in the on-deck circle, he can drive in Ian Kinsler from first base.
Yeah, you're at the top of the lineup, heading toward the middle of the lineup, and so that probably would tend you to, or lead you to believe that you would tend not to run the runner at first base.
Also, probably the fact that Cole is getting the ball to his catcher in a timely manner, which is not allowing Ian to get a pretty good jump off first, as of yet.
Holding again, and again it's fouled away.
And the second time through the Tigers' order, just as they did in last night's game, they were putting some good swings on Cole. They did that to Ryan Vogelsong last night.
It has turned into a 7-pitch at bat here for Justin Upton. Bouncing ball to short. Mercer to second one, and the relay is a no, not in time.
We're going to check that.
From the naked eye, it looked like they got him, but safe is the call by Ron Culpa. We'll see if the Pirates want to challenge this. They will look at their tape. Pretty close. Pirates have waved it off. They will not challenge. So that'll bring up Cabrera. Miguel struck out on a fastball at the letters in the first inning. Oh, and 1 on Miggy. Saltalamacchia got all the credit last night, and deservedly so, for the grand slam home run, but it was Cabrera that started the party with a 2-out double in the 6th inning. That was followed by a walk, then a single, and then the grand slam. One ball, one strike. Garrett Cole about to throw his 50th pitch. Two and one. Tigers offensively had another pretty good night last night. They lead the American League in batting average and on base percentage. That's in there, and they really have had to pound the baseball because they have not run much this year. They are the only team in baseball without a stolen base to this point.
And Miguel did not like this last call by Jerry Mills. He worked so hard to get himself into that good count, 2 balls and 1 strike. And then Jerry Mills going to give Cole that strike.
The 2-2. High fly ball toward right field, sailing back toward the seats. And Polanco runs out of room.
That's where the Pirates the last couple of years have tried to get Miguel out with fastballs up in the strike zone. It's probably the only place that you can get Miggy out. But you got to have a good fastball like Cole does in the mid-90s. Going back in there again.
Too far inside. 3-2. JD Martinez waiting on deck.
And now you can run Upton if you choose to do so. Miguel does not strike out all that often. If there's one guy that you trust to put the ball in play and you could possibly stay out of a double play, it would be Miggy.
Runner holds, swing and a miss. 2 gone.
We're going to make that our Bell Tire pitch by pitch. The second time today that Cole has punched out Miguel Cabrera. Mickey worked the count to 2-1, and then that was called a strike, and then he fouled off one good one before swinging through the last pitch. It's a nice job here, a slow breaking ball to finish Miggy off by Garrett Cole.
J.D. Martinez takes strike 1. Cole's fastball still mid-90s. Mentioned in his first start, he was between 95 and 98.
He is one of the few in our sport that can throw 95 in the first inning, and then his last pitch could be 95, 96 as well. He maintains his velocity.
They have really watched his innings over the years. It's been a slow progression. 3 years ago, he threw 117 innings. Then he got up to 138. Last year, over the 200 mark. 208 innings for Cole.
Starting to see what a lot of scouts saw in Garrett Cole coming out of college when they made him the first player chosen in the draft that year. And Trevor Bauer, who also pitched collegiately with him at UCLA, was the 3rd pick. Bauer pitching out of the bullpen now, even though Bauer had better numbers in college than Cole did.
2-1 the count. I wonder if they're similar personality-wise.
Not even close. Bauer a lot like left-handed.
That is true. Here's the 2-1. 2-2 now on J.D. Martinez. Tigers did not have a hit until the leadoff single by Kinsler here in the 4th inning.
And J.D. Martinez off to another sizzling start, picking up right where he left off last year. Career numbers: 38 home runs, 102 RBIs, an All-Star, Silver Slugger Award too.
J.D. trying to extend his 7-game hitting streak. The longest hitting streak he's had in his career is 14. That was a couple of years ago. Runner will go on 3-2. There's nobody there to take a throw as Cole didn't realize that it was a 3-2 count, and all the way to third base will go Upton.
Even though it is a 3-2 count there, I didn't see any communication there from John Jaso, who is playing first base for the very first time, that he was moving off the bag. He simply moves off, but he never gets Cole to step off to tell him that he's not there, and therefore it costs Cole an error. And usually the first baseman will signal to the pitcher, I'm going to be behind him or I'm moving over, so your pitcher knows that he can't throw over there.
Well, we'll see if the Tigers can take advantage of that 2-base throwing error by Garrett Cole. Upton at third now, and it's 3-2. And he lost him, ball 4. First walk of the ball game for Cole. That'll put him at the corners and bring up Castellanos. I'm trying to remember the last time I've seen that play happen. I can't remember ever seeing it. And now here is Ray Searage coming out.
And Garrett Cole has thrown 26 pitches in this particular inning. So this visit, a couple different reasons. One, to slow him down a little bit so he can get over the fact that he threw that ball away, get that out of his system. And two, in these situations, Castellanos really loves to swing at the first pitch.
Ray Searage had to jog out there. Of course, the 30-second clock this year is new in baseball, where pitching coaches have just 30 seconds to deliver their message. And Ray was saying the other day, I don't like it, man.
Pitching coach got to be in shape. Huh?
There are some of us that have had knee replacements and hip replacements, and now you're making us run.
We were talking about this yesterday. They should have given Oakland a little bit more time with all that foul territory they have in Oakland for the pitching coaches to get to the mound.
Here's Castellanos now. And he'll send one in the air to center field. McCutchen is on the move, still going back to the track, to the wall, and that ball is off the wall. Castellanos stuttered around second, And now they got him caught between second and third. Nick thought that ball might have been out. They're going to tag him out. But the Tigers will take advantage of it.
Where was he going?
He stuttered around second base and then eventually was tagged out. Driving one deep to center field, and the Tigers get to Garrett Cole. It's 2-0.
.359 in first pitches seen so far in that bat this year. Gets a hanging slider from Cole and hits it 399 feet from home plate. Ball just missed getting out of the ballpark. By the time McCutchen gets it in, I'm not so quite sure why Castellanos continued to run. There was no way that there was going to be a play at home plate on J.D. Martinez, so Castellanos simply gave himself up there. But we'll take the 2 runs.
Yes, we will, against Garrett Cole. Absolutely. Garrett Cole had not given up a base runner in the first 3 innings.
Tigers have had some good at-bats against some hard-throwing right-handers this year. Jose Fernandez of the Miami Marlins comes to mind. Then that kid, Luis Severino?
Severino's
of the
good.
Yankees. They had some good at-bats against him. Hard throwers don't bother them. He just didn't make a pitch. He knew Castellanos was swinging, because that's what the data tells him, but he did not execute that slider very good.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Josh Harrison. He'll be followed by Mercer and then Chris Stewart. Bottom portion of the lineup coming up here against Zimmerman. A 2-run lead for the Tigers. That's driven toward right center field. And JD runs it down. 1 away here in the 4th. Sunday, April 24th, the Tigers take on the Indians. That'll be a 1:10 p.m. start. It's Kids Opening Day. All kids 14 and under receive a free Tigers team baseball card set. Visit Tigers.com or call 866-66-TIGER.
So the little peeps, finally get their opening day, huh?
They do. Did you collect baseball cards when you were a kid?
A few. But there were a lot of my baseball cards that ended up in my bicycle wheels, though.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
You know, with the clothespin.
Yeah.
I love that sound.
Yeah, that Mickey Mantle rookie sounds really good in your spokes. Good play there for the second out of the inning. Mercer is gone.
That's back in the day when we used to be able to walk to the store, and then you get the bubble gum pack for like 5 cents.
Yep, and that stale piece of gum.
Yep, stale piece of gum, and you get about great. 10 cards in there.
Yeah. The good old days.
Yeah.
Here's Chris Stewart. Stewart popped up in his first at bat. And they almost hit him as he spins out of the way. 1 ball to no strikes. Well, the Tigers again finding a way the second time through the lineup. They struggled against Vogelsong the first time through last night. And they found a way to get a couple of runs the second time through here against Garrett Cole.
Veteran team. Kinsler at the top. Upton, Miguel. JD's a real tough out.
Strike called by home plate umpire Jerry Meals.
And Wally Joyner is the hitting coach here for the 3rd year in a row. And David Newhan is the assistant hitting coach.
High 2-2. On to Houston after this ball game is complete today. The Tigers have 3 against the Astros and then 3 coming up against the Royals. Fouled away. Royals not messing around to start this year, are they?
It's a good baseball team.
And they came in at 6-2 at the start of play today, along with the Chicago White Sox.
Tigers are going to see a real good team too in Houston, although they're struggling a little bit in their bullpen. They've still got a good team, good offense.
Boy, there's a chance that this race in the Central can go down to the final day this year of the season. I mean, that's just the kind of quality there is in the Central Division. Full count 3-2. It'll be a fun race.
Always is.
Now the 3-2 pitch. Bouncing ball slowly towards short. Romine's been busy. And he will throw out Stewart to end the inning. Pirates go in order. Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit is brought to you by Bell Tire. Get the lowest tire price, period. Bell Tire. And by Chevrolet. More than you expect for less than you imagine. Spectacular day here in Pittsburgh today. Tigers out to a 2-0 lead as we go to the 5th inning. And Garrett Cole back to the hill. He'll face Tyler Collins to get things started. It's too bad we don't spend a little more time in the city. This is a really short trip, but Pittsburgh is a fantastic place.
It really is. Nice downtown area here, and you can walk to the ballpark. Very comfortable here in the broadcast booth.
Here's Tyler Collins. He'll drive the first pitch in the air to center field. McCutchen is under this one. 1 pitch, 1 out. Now Bobby Wilson. I almost decided to walk back to the hotel last night. I really thought about it. It's one of my favorite things to do here in Pittsburgh because of the bridge, and it's a great walk, but it was just too cold.
It was a little crispy last night.
Much nicer day today. Strike one on Bobby Wilson. Flying out to right field in his only at bat so far. Wilson, one of those guys that had to overcome pretty long odds. He was a 48th round pick of the Angels, and he got to the big leagues. Ball missing up high. He was a high school teammate in Seminole, Florida, of Casey Kochman's. They played together in high school. In fact, Tom Kochman, Casey's dad, scouted him and signed him. Ooh, nice play by Cole.
Look what I found.
Man, oh man. 2 gone.
And ball hit right back at him, able to field his position because he had his body in the proper position. It's one thing as a pitcher, once you deliver that ball toward home plate, you become a defender.
Here's Romine with 2 outs. Cole still at 95 with that fastball. Chopper to the shortstop, Mercer. It's going to be a quick inning for Garrett Cole. They go 1-2-3. Bottom of the 5th coming up, and you're watching Tigers baseball on Fox Sports Detroit, presented by Bell Tire.
Jimmy John's freaky fast delivery of the game. Zimmerman is off to another really fast start here today. A couple of harmless ground balls. He's also mixed in a few strikeouts, 3 to be exact. He has walked a couple, but I think those have been pretty much by design. But he's working all 4 quadrants of that strike zone with the fastball, and he's thrown just enough breaking balls to keep this aggressive Pittsburgh Pirates team off balance.
Only 2 hits, no runs, and Zimmerman back to work here, facing his opponent today, Garrett Cole, who steps in to start things off. And Garrett Cole wraps it to left, and it'll bounce in for a base hit. So the pitcher is aboard. Leadoff single. This is the first hit for the Pirates since the 1st inning. Here's John Jaso.
You saw Castellanos going to his position with John Jaso standing in the batter's box, but he had a conversation with Zimmerman before he went there. But what he went to remind him of is a ball hit to the right side of the infield. If it happens to get through, I can't get to third base. So you as a pitcher, you have to make sure you're over at third base. Some of the things that you have to communicate now, Mario, with all these shifts in baseball, guys have to know where they're going to be ahead of time in certain cutoff situations.
I think a lot of that stuff is done in spring training, isn't it? Which has kind of changed the way they do business now in spring.
Ooh.
That's off the glove of Romine into center field. Cole will stop at second.
There's a perfect example of what Castellanos just told
Right.
Zimmerman. Ball up the middle, ball to the right side of the infield. Your responsibility is going to be to get to third base. Nearly a nifty play here by Romine. And there's Cole going to third base. Excuse me, Zimmerman going to third base.
Back-to-back hits for the Pirates now here in the 5th inning. That'll bring up McCutchen. Jaso extends his hitting streak to 5 in a row.
Really no need to panic, even though Andrew McCutchen is an outstanding performer. You know that he's not up there bunting, so if you make a pitch here in your Zimmerman, you might be able to get the ground ball to get you a double play to aid you in getting out of this inning.
Castellanos and Zimmerman having a brief little chat. Nick was just recently running through a series of defensive signals.
Castellanos is playing in like he might be anticipating a bunt here from, well, now he's backing up.
But he was on the grass. McCutchen skies one in the air toward left field.
Thank you very much.
Up and under it. Big out there, one gone.
He's still looking for that ground ball.
And we'll see if he can get it here from David Freese.
He's got to be careful. Zimmerman has not seen a lot of the Pirates hitters, but he has seen Freese a few times, and Freese has had a little bit of success against Jordan.
Single, ground out for Freese. And he lines one to left, base hit. Cole coming to third. They're going to stop him there, and the bases will be loaded. Second hit of the game for David Freese. Third hit of the inning for the Pirates.
And both of the Freese hits today have come on first pitches. It's a breaking ball that's hanging. And you're right up in the happy zone of Freese, and he drills to left field.
And Zimmerman now has to go through the teeth of the Pirates lineup.
And Zimmerman had to pitch out of a bases loaded jam in the first inning.
Marte has been on base twice, single, also reaching on an error. Ball one high. Well, Starling Marte hit a grand slam on Friday for one of his 2 home runs. He is batting here with the bases loaded. Foul straight back. 1 ball, 1 strike on Marte. Tigers with a 2-0 lead, but the Pirates have their best scoring opportunity here in the 5th. Cute foul. 1-2 on Marte.
I don't know for sure, but the last 2 fastballs at 93 miles an hour, Marte has been late on both fastballs. In the back of his mind, he must be sitting on something softer, because this guy's got a lethally quick bat, and usually 93 is not a problem for him.
2-2. Leadoff single by Cole, base hit by Jaso. 1-out single by Freese to load him up. Confab on the mound now as Wilson comes out. Zimmerman has had 84. The strike to ball ratio pretty good. 56 of those strikes. Checked it. They will appeal. Did not go. So now it's full 3-2. About as far as you can go. That is popped up. That'll help. Right side of the infield. Kinsler to the grass. And the runners will hold. 2 gone.
Just a really nice job here by Zimmerman going up against Marte, who has been their most dangerous hitter. Marte, a little tardy on this fastball. Looked like he might be looking for something soft. Then he was able to run the count to 3 balls and 2 strikes. And because of this no stride that he's going to with 2 strikes, he had him fooled and out in front, and he pops up in the infield.
Well, one more big out still to get with the bases loaded. Polanco will step in. Walking a ground out.
Every time that Gregory has come to the plate today, he's had a lot of base runners on. Bases loaded his first time up.
That'll miss outside. 1-0. Well, the Pirates already have left the bases full. That was back in the first inning. Might as well do it again here in the 5th.
Shoot, he came up with 2 runners on his first time up, 2 more runners on his second time up.
Low 2-0. Zimmerman has walked a couple in this game. Falling behind 2-0 on Polanco. And he's gone 3-0 with no room at the end. Waiting on deck is Josh Harrison. Zimmerman now will regroup. And Polanco waits on the 3-0. He's taking. It's a strike. 3-1. Zimmerman has had a couple of 1-2-3 innings, but he has really had to battle in the first, the third, and now here in the 5th, and that has driven his pitch count up to 90 now. Here's the 3-1. That's in the air. Back a second. Kinsler is there to retire the side, and Zimmerman pitches out of the jam. Pirates leave him loaded for the 2nd time today. And the Tigers still hold on to a 2-0 lead. Over the Pirates as we go to the 6th inning here at PNC Park, and we tell you about the 6-game flex plans. They're on sale now for as little as $110. You get 6 Tigers games of your choice. Call 313-471-BALL today or visit tigers.com. Check out the 6-game flex plan. Pretty good effort by Jordan Zimmerman. I mean, he went through the teeth of the lineup with the bases loaded. He got pop-ups from Marte and Polanco. Nicely done.
That's 8 stranded base runners already, and through 5 innings today for the Bucs offense.
And Jordan leads it off here as we go to the 6th. They'll be followed by Kinsler and Upton. We'll see if the Tigers can add to the 2-0 lead. And Polanco, after popping up on that last pitch to end the inning, was slamming his bat to the ground, upset with himself. So here we go now in the 6th inning. Garrett Cole back to work, and he delivers strike 1 to Jordan Zimmerman. Zimmerman struck out back in the 3rd. He'll drill one to center field, and down goes Cole.
Watch your lips.
Man, he hit the deck. He lost his cap.
I think it might have clipped him.
So both starting pitchers have hits in this game. And we'll see if that did get Cole. Yep, top of the head, he says.
Yeah.
Man.
Scary.
Oh.
Man, you can hear it. It didn't slow it down at all. The ball still got into center field in a hurry, so it's just good that it grazed the top of the head. A lot of precaution being taken these days, though, once guys do have some type of an injury around the head area.
Well, with the new concussion protocol in Major League Baseball now, they certainly are taking much closer looks. Right off the top of the cap. And you're right, it sounded, it did sound worse than I guess it turned out to be. They want to make sure that Cole is telling the truth here and that he can continue in this game. And he will. So we'll see now what the Tigers can do with this leadoff single. Ian Kinsler will stand in. Kinsler got the Tigers' first hit of the game after they had retired 9 straight. The Pirates did. And Ian led off the 4th with a single. Ball high. Ian has now hit safely in 7 of 8. Little float inside. 2 balls, no strikes.
Yeah, good count here for Ian Kinsler. Dangerous fastball hitter. He's gotten himself in that predictable fastball count. Going to get a breaking ball, though.
And it'll drop in the outside corner for a strike. Bouncing ball to short, should be 2. There's a 6-4-3 double play. Right at him for a tailor-made twin killing. 2 gone. We'll bring up Justin Upton. Upton is 0 for 2 in this game, has scored a run. Reaching out a fielder's choice in the 4th. Ball 1. Cole last year finished up 4th in the Cy Young voting in the National League. Jake Arrieta, of course, won it. Greinke finished 2nd. Kershaw was 3rd, and then Garrett Cole made the All-Star team last season. 2-0. And 19 victories, tied for 2nd in the National League. Over 200 innings. And over 200 strikeouts. That's in there. 2-1. Pirates also have a couple of young guys that they're hopeful of perhaps getting to the big leagues this year. 2 of their better prospects, Jameson Taillon and Tyler Glasnow. They're at AAA right now. 2 good ones on the horizon. Line to left field. That'll get down. Base hit. Marte cuts it off, and it's a 2-out single.
And 2-1. Justin looking for a fastball, but got a breaking ball. But because he was looking for that mid-90s fastball, he got out in front of the breaking ball and laced it sharply into left field. Man, does he have a quick bat. Strong wrist, strong forearm.
Fourth Tigers hit of the game. It extends the inning for the big guy, Miguel Cabrera. Ball 1. Well, Menards brings you the big money encounter. This is the matchup. Garrett Cole and Miguel Cabrera.
Miggy is due against Cole. Cole has struck him out twice today already.
Yeah, it's been a one-sided encounter so far, but for Cabrera, that rarely means anything.
And continues to crowd Miggy up and in with those hard fastballs.
2-0. Tigers have the lead. We're in the 6th inning. 2 outs and a man on. 1-1 is rolled foul. 1-2.
97 with some nice run action to the arm side. Usually when guys throw this hard, 97, there's no movement with the fastball. It's a straight 4-seamer, but Cole, a little life on that last fastball.
It's funny how the miles per hour seem to pick up when Miguel steps in.
All the time. He gets the opposing pitcher's best every single night. Every night.
Here's the 1-2.
He's also the guy that the pitching coach and the manager and the pitcher and the catcher huddle before the game and say, don't let this guy beat you. And yet he hits 340 every year and hits you 30, and he drives in 100 plus.
Is that good? Tigers have a chance to win 2 games here in Pittsburgh, really without the use of Victor Martinez, who is out of the lineup because of no DH. And Miggy drives one in the air to center field. McCutchen is moving back, and that will end the inning. No runs, couple of hits, and a scary moment. Garrett Cole hit on the top of the cap. He's okay. The bottom of the 6th here in Pittsburgh. 2-0 is our score. Tigers have the lead. Jordan Zimmermann has scattered 5 hits. He has also pitched out of a couple of bases loaded jams. And he'll go back to work here with Harrison, Mercer, and Stewart coming up for the Pittsburgh Pirates. A Tigers win today. They run their record to 6-2 as they head to Houston. But some more work to be done as Harrison leads it off and cuts and misses 0-1.
Yeah, the one thing that Zimmerman has started to notice that just about every hitter that has gone up there is starting to swing at first pitches. Therefore, he pulled the string on the first pitch to Harrison.
And a leadoff single here for the Pirates in the 6th.
Let's take a look at the big boys' big play of the game. You talked about the fact that he had to pitch out of a bases loaded jam in the 1st. Well, he had to do it again in the 5th, and he had to get out a couple of real tough hitters. One would be Marte, got him to pop up, and then he got Gregory Polanco to pop up as well, and Zimmerman absolutely loved it.
Pirates have stranded 8 in this ball game. Jordy Mercer stands in. Mercer is 0 for 2, couple of ground balls. The National League game is really kind of intriguing. You're pitching toward the bottom of the lineup. Garrett Cole scheduled to bat in this inning now after the leadoff single. He is pitching well. There's a strike call. Managers have a few more decisions here in the National League to make. Although Jim Leyland used to argue that he had more decisions to make in the American League because a lot of times those situations on whether or not to bat a pitcher or pinch hit for him, those are made.
Right.
And not really difficult decisions. The 0-2 is low, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Leyland always said that his toughest task every night was getting through that 6th inning. And whether to go to the bullpen, whether not to go to the bullpen, because that just seemed to be the one inning where the game could turn on a dime on you.
And most teams have the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th set up now with their bullpen.
That's right.
But that 6th inning is the bridge inning that can be so troublesome sometimes.
Because usually that guy that's coming in that particular inning is going to come in with some traffic on the base paths.
Right. Brad running through the signs as Mercer digs in behind in the count. Runner bluffs and is fouled back. I don't know if he was bluffing or was intending on going, but just slipped.
This much I do know. Zimmerman has already had to pitch himself out of a couple of jams here today. His pitch count is not in horrible shape at 97, but there's been some stressful pitches. He will not get an opportunity to pitch out of this jam. He's going to have to get some help out of the bullpen since if the Pirates get a few more runners on here. Most managers will give you a couple of jams to pitch out of, especially a guy like a Zimmerman. But once you get to that 3rd jam, you got to get some help. You got to get to your bullpen.
Things are quiet right now in the Tiger bullpen as Zimmerman has thrown 97 pitches.
Justin Wilson has been that guy that's been pitching in the 7th inning, obviously, but he's been used quite a bit.
Mercer given time. Fouled away. Jordy Mercer was a really good two-way player in college. He went to Oklahoma State and not only was he a really good offensive performer, but also left as their all-time saves leader. He's got Harrison at first base with nobody out. 2-0 Tigers lead in the 6th. Got him. Strike three. Mercer caught looking, did not like it, and lets Jerry Meals know about it. And so is Glenn Hurdle.
It's a great pitch. It's a breaking ball that he froze him with inside. Mercer gave up on it, and the ball, whew, well, he got a break.
Boy, did he.
That wasn't a strike.
And you could tell by the emphatic reaction by Mercer and Glenn Hurdle. One gone. Four strikeouts now for Zimmerman. Here is Stewart. Runner goes. Here comes the throw from Wilson. A little bit high, and he's safe at second base. Harrison steals his first of the year.
Harrison had a huge lead, and he got himself a really nice jump, and the swipe tag applied by Ian Kinsler. No contact made with Harrison.
Harrison's got the Rajay Davis oven mitt.
Yeah, he does. Thought you were going to patent those.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Put a Tiger logo on it, but then again we'd run into licensing problems. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Here's the strike call. Now there is some activity in the Detroit bullpen. The lefty righty combination warming up. Kyle Ryan and Drew Verhagen. Slap down the right field line. That is going to slice. 1-2 on the catcher Stewart. Boy, the Pirates had 17 hits in Monday night's game, the first game in this really 4-game series, 2 at home, 2 on the road. But since that 17-hit performance, Tigers pitching has really tightened up. They've given up 6 hits today, but Zimmerman able to pitch out of a couple of jams. Pitcher spot due next. Here's the ball high and away. 2-2 on Stewart. Here's the big difference. 8 left on base for the Pirates. Tigers got their 2 runs on a double by Nick Castellanos. Down the left field line, ball hit well, Upton going back to the warning track right in front of the wall to make the catch. Harrison retreats, and it's time for a game break now with Mickey York. Thanks, Mick. Could Minnesota go to 0-9?
They could do that.
Yeah, it's looking that way. So Garrett Cole will not bat. They will pinch hit for him.
Matt Joyce, former Tiger.
Now we'll get a quick visit to the mound here as Joyce will pinch hit for the pitcher spot. Rich Doobie comes running out of the dugout.
It's a big part of the game. There's no doubt that Rich Doobie is just going over the scouting report to and pitch to Matt Joyce. This much we do know. Matt Joyce has always been a really good fastball hitter.
.222 so far this year, 9 at bats, couple of hits, 1 RBI. Joyce played in the series in Detroit, started 2 of those games, hit leadoff in 1 game and hit 3rd in the other. Strike 1 on Joyce.
And first tour of duty for Joyce in the senior circuit. That would be the National League, so he has not had a lot of pitch hitting opportunities. A 179 career batting average for Matt.
Here's the 0-1. Swing and a miss. Are there any secrets to staying sharp as a pinch hitter? I mean, it's such a difficult position, especially when you come into a game late or cold.
Well, if you know that's your role, and once you start to get to the 6th inning, depending on how the starting pitcher is doing for your team in the National League, that's when you have to go downstairs underneath the tunnel. They have tees down there. You can do some soft toss. They have bicycles down there where you can ride a bike and you can start to get yourself loose and get prepared for the at-bat. But that's really all the help you have.
Joyce grounds out 4-3. No damage done. 6 in the books in Pittsburgh. Summary, the Tigers leading it by a score of 2-0. And Zimmerman, 6 innings, no runs. He has escaped 2 bases loaded jams in this game. Castellanos has what has turned out to be the only big hit of the game, the 2-1 double in the 4th, and all those left on base, 9 of them for the Pirates. And that's one of the big reasons why the Tigers have the lead. To the bullpen go the Pirates with Garrett Cole out of this game now. Say Wallside Windows pitching change. Rob Scahill will come on.
And Scahill just called up today and pitched in 8 games down in the minors, 11 2/3 innings with a very good ERA at 2.31.
Scahill out of Lombard, Illinois. That's where he was born. That's where he resides. Tigers have J.D. Martinez here in the 7th. Up 2-0. First one from Scahill is in for a strike. Corey Lupke went on the disabled list. He pitched in last night's ball game with a hamstring problem. Scahill called up. 1 ball, 1 strike. Scahill out of the Rockies organization. He pitched in Pittsburgh last year, but had 3 years with the Rockies. How about that for a difference? Pitching in Coors Field and then coming and pitching in this ballpark.
Yes, indeed. This is a very pitcher-friendly yard.
2-1. Inside, 3 balls, 1 strike on J.D. Martinez. Castellanos and then Tyler Collins to follow here in the Tigers 7th. Swing and a miss. 3-2. And he lost him. Ball 4. Tigers get the leadoff man on. 3rd time in the last 4 innings. Tigers fans, if you can't watch the games on TV, you can now stream games live on your mobile device. Just go to the App Store, download the free Fox Sports Go app, log in and stream Tigers baseball wherever you go on Fox Sports Go.
You know, you got a lot of people at work that are watching online these days.
Shh, don't tell the boss.
Sneaking around.
Here's Castellanos. Hit hard to left field. Again, he attacks the first pitch, and again, it results in a base hit.
He is now 4 of 9 so far this year on first pitches seen. It's a real good at bat here. It's a fastball from that low 3/4 arm slot with a little sink action inside. Leg kick up, down. Nice rotation with the hips. Good bat speed coming through the strike zone.
Tigers threatening here in the 7th inning now as Collins will step in. Castellanos 4 for 9, 3 RBIs on the first pitch.
Yeah, the bunt is in order here. He had to try to push a couple more runners across home plate. Collins is a good bunter. He can handle the bat. And if he is bunting, he wants to bunt the ball down toward third base. Make David Freese come and get it.
No sign of the bunt there. 1 ball and no strikes. Dave Clark flashing signals. Again, no sign of bunt. Strike called. 1-1.
Yeah, don't know for certain. Yeah, but obviously Brad might feel like Collins, of the next 2 hitters, Wilson and Romine, he gives them the best chance of hitting something in the gap. Therefore, no bunt to Collins.
Pulled fair down the right field line. It's going to go to the corner. This will get at least 1 run in. Martinez comes around to score. Castellanos goes to third, and there's your double. It wasn't to the gap, but it got the job done.
We might have to make that our call, Sam, call of the day a little bit later on.
Expecting bunt, and Brad says not so fast.
And Jaso at first base, drawn in, looking for bunt, and Collins turns on a fastball right down the line for a double and an RBI.
Tyler gets his first RBI of the season. Tigers now lead 3-0, and here's Bobby Wilson. Infield coming in for the Pirates. Rolled foul, 0-1.
Tigers have taken advantage of their limited opportunities today with runners in scoring position, whereas, as you pointed out, the Pittsburgh Pirates have not. Good call there by Brad on his 47th birthday.
That's why he's sitting down there. Here's the 0-1. Driven to center field. McCutchen is on the move. Still going back to the warning track to make the catch. That'll get another run in as both runners move up. Collins to third. Castellanos comes in, and the Tigers lead 4-0. Bobby Wilson gets an RBI. First out of the inning. Here's Romine. Andrew is 0 for 2. Infield still in for the Pirates. Strike called, 0-1. Romine, a fly out and a ground out. Trying to put the ball in play here with the drawn in infield and drive in that 5th run. look who's lurking. Victor Martinez waiting on deck with the pitcher spot due up. Here's the 0-2. Swing and a miss. Romine is out, and there are 2 gone. First strikeout for Scahill. Romine will need a new bat.
Well, they've got a nice parking spot for Victor down at first base with 2 outs and a runner on third base. Really no need to pitch to Victor if they don't really want to.
For Hagen, still throwing in the Tigers bullpen. So Martinez to pinch hit. Strike 1 to Martinez. Tigers get 2 runs in the 4th and 2 more here in the 7th. The defense now is relaxed and playing the shift with 2 outs. Ball inside, 1-1. Zimmerman is done for the afternoon with the pinch hitter here. Pulled on the ground to first base, deep behind the bag. Jaso has it. He'll tag the bag for the out, but the Tigers get a couple of insurance runs. 2 runs in for the Tigers. And coming up, the Consumers Energy 7th inning stretch. Ball game as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning here in Pittsburgh on the final day of this 2-game homestand, or 2-game series I should say, as we check out the probables for tomorrow. The matchup presented by Gordon Chevrolet, and Mike Pelfrey trying to bounce back from his first start. Dallas Keuchel will go for the Astros.
Well, Pelfrey's going to have to be on top of his game tomorrow, because Dallas Keuchel last year pitching at home was 15-0 with a 1.46 ERA. So
that good.
He protects home court very nicely.
Wallside windows pitching change. Drew Verhagen now to pitch the 7th. And so Drew will try and get it to the 8th. Right now the Tigers have a 4-0 lead. Verhagen facing the top of the Pirates lineup will be Jaso, McCutchen, and Freeze.
Verhagen has done wonderful work out of the Tigers bullpen with a mixture of fastballs to get up to 95, 96 with some good movement. He's got a nice slow breaking ball, and 81% of the time the hitters put the ball in play, they hit the ball on the ground against Drew.
This
How about
one
that?
might find a gap. It will. It's going to roll all the way to the warning track. And Jaso is going to find himself at second base with a leadoff double. It's his second hit in this game.
He has reached base safely every single game that he's had the Pirates uniform on. He goes down and gets a pretty good pitch and finds the gap in right center field.
Here's McCutchen now. Andrew McCutchen is 0 for 2 with a walk. Strike one on McCutchen. Kyle Ryan was warming up earlier. He is up again in the Detroit bullpen, the left-hander. One ball, one strike. Drew Verhagen, born in Royce City, Texas, lives in Rockwall, Texas. 20 appearances last year for the Tigers, all in relief, a 2.05 ERA. Little high, 2-1. McCutchen is now 2 for 15 against the Tigers this year. Now 3-1. Tigers had that bumpy first game as far as the bullpen was concerned in Miami, but since they have really done some pretty good work. Saw Wilson and Lowe last night. Frankie Rodriguez pitching the ninth. And he lost him, and now the Pirates have the first two men on here in the seventh. With nobody out. We'll bring up David Freese. Brad now huddling with his lieutenants. Gene Lamont, Rich Doobie. Freese, another pretty good game. 2 for 3, 2 singles. That average up to .333. Strike one. Freese with 4 hits the last 2 days. One ball, one strike. Well, here you go. This is what we're talking about. 4 earned runs on opening day in Miami since 4 earned runs in over 22 innings.
It's pretty good.
Chopper back up the middle. Kinsler backhanded flip for one. Relays a double play.
Right on time.
And that was not a really easy one to turn either.
And when he came into the contest, we told you 81% of the balls that he throws are on the ground. Nice shuffle pass there to Andrew Romine at the shortstop position and able to turn it over.
Boy, did the Tigers need that. The double play thrown by Verhagen, 2 gone. Runner at third now for Starling Marte. Ball 1 to Marte.
And Verhagen throwing hard this afternoon. He's thrown one fastball at 97.
Whoa.
He has said that he feels a lot stronger pitching out of the bullpen versus when he was a starter, and feels like he's got a little extra life on his fastball since he's been pitching in the bullpen.
You liked him as a starter, though, didn't you?
I thought he was going to be a really good starter, but he was so successful last year pitching out of the bullpen. And the Tigers have had a difficult time of finding guys down there to get the job done. When he came to spring training this year, they basically decided that that was going to be your future. You are going to be in the bullpen. Look at him. It's been up to 98 today.
One and two. Oh, 95-mile-an-hour fastball missed for Hagen with a little stare in there for Jerry Meals. Where'd this go?
That's a strike.
Sure is. I mean, it was borderline, but it did catch the corner. Slow roller toward third base on the charge. Castellanos is going to come home and throw it away. A run will score. Throw back to first, and he gets back in there, so Marte is aboard. Costi didn't think he had a play at first base, and here goes a base hit, RBI.
You're absolutely right. He did not have a play at first base with the speed of Marte, but the problem with this is Wilson wasn't even looking. Wilson was looking down toward first base when that ball was thrown toward home by Castellanos.
Fortunately, it rolled right back to Wilson, and they kept the runner at first base. Pirates get on the board. It's now 4-1. And here is Polanco. Polanco's been up there a couple of times in this game with golden opportunities. He popped up with the bases full back in the fifth. That was the best scoring chance that the Pirates had in this game.
He's had at least 2 base runners on in all 3 of his plate appearances prior to this one today.
9 left on base for the Pirates as a team, and many of them left by Polanco. And bending out of there, 2 balls and no strikes. For Hagen replacing Jordan Zimmerman, who threw 6 scoreless innings. And 2 really good starts for the Tigers. Polanco is now 0 for his last 11. And he'll shoot one on the line to left center field. That's going to drop in, base hit. They're going to get the runner to third base, and now they've got him at the corners as Polanco snaps that 0 for 11, and now it's first and third with 2 outs.
It's a pretty good swing here by Polanco. The Tigers, for the most part, have been throwing him away consistently the entire series. This is one of the few times he decided to go with the pitch.
Harrison due up here with runners at the corners. And Verhagen gets a meeting on the mound with Rich Doobie. Pirates looking for a 7th inning comeback. That is the 9th hit of the day for the Pirates. 9 hits and so far just 1 run. But they've got the crowd back into it now as Harrison stands in. Single, stolen base, 1 for 3.
Josh Harrison very aggressive on first pitches, especially on fastballs. He has been the entire series.
Ball high. Harrison hit into a force with the bases loaded, ending the first inning. Fouled back, 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's the 1-1. Chopper back to the mound. Off the glove of Verhagen, and a run will score. Wow. He got the comebacker, but couldn't make the play, and it's 4-2.
Drew's got to be kicking himself that he did not make the play here. And he reaches out, the ball hits right off the heel of the glove and then trickles behind the mound, and before the ball is picked up, no play to be made.
Now the tying runs are on. The Tiger lead cut in half to 4-2, and here is Jordy Mercer. Ball 1 to Mercer. Mark Lowe now starting to warm up in the Tigers bullpen. Mercer looks at a strike.
Yeah, apparently Brad has decided not to use Justin Wilson this afternoon, at least up until this point. Wilson has worked the last couple of days, but he only threw 16 total pitches in those 2 outings. He has been really efficient.
Just inside with off speed, and the count now goes to 2-1. And Mercer is 0 for 3 in this game. Had a big 2-run single on Monday against the Tigers and Justin Verlander. Missed it away. 3-1. Just off the plate. See what Mercer gets here on 3-1. Line to left field. That is down, a base hit. Polanco coming around to score, and the Pirates have made it a 4-3 ball game. Jordy Mercer, his 5th RBI of the year.
Man, Brad's going to have to go get him as soon as Lowe is ready. 3-1 fastball count turned on by Mercer. Polanco way too much speed. He's going to score easy.
RBIs to the inning for Marte, Harrison, and now Mercer. 4-3 ball game. Let's bring up Chris Stewart. Now the tying run has moved to second base, and what was once a comfortable 4-0 cushion has just nearly disappeared.
And Brad was waiting until he got the sign that Lowe was ready.
And here he comes. So the leadoff double started the inning from Jaso. Big double play. Looked like Verhagen was going to get out of the inning no trouble, but he ends up giving up the baseball. And Mark Lowe will come in now out of the Tigers bullpen. Pitching change for the Tigers. We'll be back. Bullpen trying to save this one for Jordan Zimmerman, who rode in his first 2 starts with the Tigers. Pretty good numbers.
Well, you like the way that he pitches to contact. Only 3 strikeouts in the game against the Yankees, only 4 here today, which means he's trying to invite contact on one of the first 3 pitches to the teams that he's going up against, which is exactly what a lot of pitching coaches are preaching these days.
It has become much more interesting here in the 7th inning. 3 runs in. Mark Lowe coming out of the Tigers bullpen.
Fastball for Lowe, 95, 96 miles an hour. He also has a slider that he loves to go to once he's gotten ahead of you to finish you off.
Harrison, the runner at second. Mercer, the runner at first. Harrison, the tying run. Here is Chris Stewart. He's 0 for 3 in the game. First one bouncing in. 1 ball, no strikes. These two have matched up only once, and Lowe won that battle. He struck Stewart out. Here's the 1-0. 1 ball, 1 strike. Verhagen started the inning, gave up a double, a walk, got a double play, but then a single. 4 straight to knock Drew out of the game. Here's the 1-1. In there, a strike called. 1-2 on Stewart.
Stewart has taken those last 2 fastballs right down the middle, like he's looking for the slider from Lowe, which you're not going to hit if he locates it where he wants to, which is buried down and away.
Laid off. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
Might as well come right back with that same slider and see if Stewart can lay off it again.
Sean Rodriguez has moved to the on-deck circle. The pitcher spot is due next if it gets that deep. Pulled foul. Stewart's gone up there working the count. He has had some lengthy at bats in this game.
Yes, he has. He's seen 26 pitches.
That's pretty quick adding there. Nice math work.
No, they fed it to me from the truck.
Okay.
But thank you, though.
Again, the 2-2. Ground ball hit to the right side. Kinsler has it there. And that is that for the Pirates. However, they scored 3 times. They're back in this game. Tigers baseball presented by Bell Tire.
Tigers leading it 4-3 as we head into the top of the 8th inning. There's a look at Kyle Ryan, who was warming up a short while ago for the Detroit Tigers. Well, Kyle Ryan is actually pretty good pals with Pittsburgh Pirates reliever Kyle Lobstein. Lobstein, of course, spent the last couple of years here with the Tigers, became good friends with James McCann, Blaine Hardy, and Kyle Ryan. Well, Lobber, he got married in January, so he had Hardy and McCann as part of his wedding party. And there's a group shot. You can see Kyle Lobstein did well for himself with Samantha Lobstein. The Friday before the wedding there in Arizona, they played a wiffle ball game. Of course, Lobstein's left-handed, but they made him pitch right-handed. But Samantha said that even some of the guests at that point were intimidated by having a big leaguer throw to him in that wiffle ball game. No update on the final score of that one. We'll keep digging on it.
Handsome group nonetheless. Thanks, Johnny. Well, the Pirates are back in this game now, and they've gone back to the bullpen. Tony Watson will come on to pitch.
Yeah, Watson's got a big arm, good fastball, usually pitches the 8th inning in winning situations, but that's exactly what Clint Hurdle is hoping, that he can slow the Tigers down and allow his offense to score a couple more runs.
Well, he's going to have to deal with the top of the Tigers lineup. It'll be Kinsler, then Upton, and then Cabrera facing the lefty. First one home is in for a strike.
And Watson's got a fastball that's right around 93 miles an hour. He also has a slider and a changeup.
Watson has been a tough customer since the middle of 2013, an ERA of about 1.5.
He's been a workhorse too. And they used him quite a bit.
Back him out of there, and the count now 1-2 on Kinsler. 8th inning is underway here in Pittsburgh. The Tiger lead now is 4-3. And a leaping try by Mercer, can't get it into center field, a base hit. Ian now a 2-hit game.
In Magic Window's moonshot, we're going to flash back to a couple of days ago at Comerica Park, 452 feet away from home plate into the camera well in straightaway center field.
If there was ever a match made in heaven, it was that home run and the moonshot.
Since the beginning of the 2009 season, 17 times Jay Up has hit home runs of 450 or better. Now that's power.
Yeah, that is major power. Only Giancarlo Stanton has had more since '09. He's had 29 of them go 450 plus. He's up there with Stanton in home runs, or a home run category.
And no one hits the ball as hard as he does.
The 0-1 pitch. High, 1 ball, 1 strike. These two have met 4 times, and Upton is 1 for 4 against him. Tigers, by the way, getting 4 more runs today, which means they have scored at least 4 in every game so far this year. They lead the American League in hitting. That is the longest streak since 1913 and 2004 as well. First 8 games, 4 or more runs. Runner goes. That's a steal for Kinsler with no throw. They appealed on the play, but it missed. 2-2.
Usually when you run with left-handers on the mound, you're going on first movement, and that's exactly what Ian Kinsler did there, and guessed correctly because Justin got a breaking ball there. First steal of the year for the Tigers.
It is. That's right. Fly ball right field. Polanco is on the move. Runner will tag and move up. Kinsler to third.
Justin's going to have his best year in a Tigers uniform, and that's the main reason, is the fact that he is really starting now to learn how to drive that ball the other way. He's always been a dead pull hitter because he has the really quick hands, but once he starts to drive some balls into right center field and right field, that batting average is going to get up to 300, and he's going to drive in a lot of runs in this offense.
And it's awfully nice to have this guy sitting behind you in the lineup too. Miguel Cabrera. Tigers trying to get a run back here. Infield coming in for the Pirates. And Miggy looks at ball one. Tigers were the last team to steal a base this year. They've just gotten one from Kinsler. Ball two to Miguel.
Really the play here for Hurdle is to see if he can get Miguel to chase something. He hasn't chased, so now they're just going to put him on.
This will be an intentional walk. It was a couple of years ago where Cabrera walked intentionally 32 times. Several years back. That'll put runners at first and third and bring up J.D. Martinez.
Martinez hit 38 home runs last year, and on June 30th, well, he was able to write Watson's name in his book.
Literally, because JD does keep a book.
He does. One of the few.
The only matchup between these two players that had ended up with a home run from JD, and there goes the bat.
Good pitch. Was that changeup?
Martinez does not have a hit yet, trying to extend his 7-game streak. However, he does have 2 walks and he has scored twice. Oh, 0-2. Kinsler started the inning with a single, stole second, moved to third on the fly ball by Upton. And then the intentional walk to Miguel Cabrera. That's it in the air toward right. It'll be deep enough to get the run in. Kinsler tags, catch is made. Big run coming in for the Tigers, now 5-3. So Martinez gets it done. That'll be his 5th RBI of the year.
And Tigers a little small ball to push that 5th run across the board. Base hit and a steal by Kinsler. Upton did his job getting Kinsler over to third, and then the sac fly by J.D. Martinez.
Back up to a 2-run spread now as Castellanos stands in. He'll drive one deep in the air to left field. Marte going back to the track, to the wall. He looks up, and Castellanos with a huge day. A 2-run shot for Nick.
Look out, Nick. I see you. When are they going to stop throwing this cat first pitch strikes?
I don't know. When are they going to learn? 3rd hit of the day for Castellanos. He has 4 RBIs, and the Tigers break it open again.
Just a real short, quick, compact swing by Castellanos, who has some really good power. How about him holding that bat, little mini bat flip?
Style points.
You see him? He was styling, wasn't he?
Yep. If you can do it, it ain't bragging.
He carried that bat halfway down the line, and then he tossed it over to the dugout.
That's pulled to first. Diving stab there by Jaso, and he'll hit the pitcher covering for the out. That'll end the inning, but Nick Castellanos, what a day for the youngster. 2-run shot. It's a 4 RBI day for Nick.
And a bat flip.
Bat flip on top. Well, the Pirates got 3 in the bottom of the 7th. No problem. The Tigers answered with 3 of their own. They are up big again now. And what's up next? Well, the Tigers will head to Houston and take on the Astros, who have gone off to a somewhat sluggish start.
Well, one of the reasons is this bullpen. That's one of the things they went out and tried to address in the offseason. But so far in the first week of the season, the bullpen necessarily has not pitched all that well. But how about that Tyler White kid, man? What a great story. He's hitting .483 with 3 homers already. I believe this kid was a 33rd round draft choice, but he's getting the most of his opportunity.
He is indeed. We'll see that Astros team over the weekend. 3 games as Cole Figueroa leads it off here. Pinch hitting for Watson. And he'll slap that one toward left field, but Upton had him played perfectly. One out.
And good scouting report. And Dave Clark moved Justin over. And he was right there. We did talk about Dallas Keuchel, who won the Cy Young last year in the American League. It's 15-0 at home with a 1.4 ERA. So it's not going to be easy tomorrow for the Tigers, but they do boast a tremendous offense. Wasn't somebody, what was Jose Fernandez's record? Wasn't he like 17-0 when they beat him in that opening series in Miami?
Right. So we're going to add Keuchel to that list.
Yeah, we're going to put Keuchel on that list.
John Jaso, the batter. I mean, you read a lot of game stories after games, and most of these starting pitchers that face the Tigers say, you know what, that is not an easy lineup to face. They have some skill in that lineup, and it's on display again here today. 7-run afternoon for the Tigers. They lead 7-3.
And that's without Victor Martinez.
That's a base hit into right field. How about Jaso with 3 hits
He can hit, man. I mean, he just puts the ball in play. He has great plate appearances. He's not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark, but he's going to wear you down with a quality at bat. And when runners are in scoring position, because he has good hand-eye coordination, he has a knack of driving into big runs.
We'll bring out McCutchen. A couple of walks today for McCutchen. Otherwise, a fly ball and a strikeout. Ball 1 to McCutchen.
We'll get in early enough tonight to where we could watch a little bit of the Kansas City Royals and Houston final game, do a little scouting. We do play Kansas City right after Houston.
It's a good idea.
Get a little homework done.
Here's the 1-0. Kansas City off to a nice start, along with Chicago, the White Sox. And leading Minnesota, the White Sox are 3-1. Those are the 2 teams right now ahead of the Tigers in the Central in the early going. Here's the 2-0. 2-1 on McCutchen. David Freese will be next. Tigers have an off day on Monday in Kansas City, and then they start a 3-game series there. Here's the 2-1 pitch. That's toward the gap in right center field. It's going to be trouble down and up against the wall. Jaso to third base. They're going to send him home. Here comes the relay to the plate, and he is out at home plate. Oh, what a relay by Kisler and a tag by Wilson. Tyler Collins ran it down, and the Tigers executed that perfectly.
This is what you practice in spring training as we get a look at the final tag here. It's a swipe tag applied there by Bobby Wilson. I don't know if Jaso thought he was going to score easily, but he could have slid with a hand and swiped the bag to elude the tag, but I don't think he thought there was going to be play.
Here's the best look right here.
Oh, he got him.
Bang. 2 gone. Runner at second. David Freese, the batter. Ball 1. Freese knocking into a double play in the 7th. He has a couple of hits today, 2 singles.
This is what they practice in spring training. Cutoffs and relays. Nice job getting there. Collins picks it up, bare hands it, gets it to Kinsler. Kinsler, he can tell by the sound of the crowd as to whether Rick Sofield, the third base coach, was going to send Jay So home or not, because you really cannot see as a middle infielder, but the crowd will tell you what that third base coach is doing with that base runner, and he took very little time getting that ball out of his glove on its way to Wilson, who made a really nice swipe tag.
Here's the 2-1 to Freese. Pulled on the ground to third, hits the bag. Castellanos can't get it. That'll score a run.
Pirates ain't going quietly today.
Here's the throw to second base. Not in time. So Freese gets himself his 3rd hit. That'll make it 7-4 as Pittsburgh comes up with another run.
And ball right off the bag and over the left shoulder of Castellanos.
Now Starling Marte. Marte has had a pretty good day. A couple of hits, including an RBI single in the 7th. The Pirates now have 14 hits in this game. Kyle Ryan throwing again in the Detroit bullpen. Here goes Brad. For a game that was started by 2 ace-type pitchers, this is turning into a wild one. So Ausmus will not make a change here, simply turns around, heads back to the bench.
Lowe threw 25 pitches last night, and so Brad just wanted to go out to see how he was doing, but there's not a pitcher that's playing at this level that's going to tell you he's had enough.
Take me out. Swing and a miss. 0-1 on Starling Marte. 7-4 ball game. Pirates certainly have had their chances. They have stranded 11 in this game. Ooh, that almost hit it. 1 ball, 1 strike. Should Marte reach, Polanco waiting on deck. Left-handed batter on deck, left-handed pitcher in the bullpen for the Tigers. So Lowe, who came on to get the final out of the 7th, trying to get through the 8th.
He talks about all the hits that the Pirates have today. Of the 14 hits, only 3 of those extra base hits, and those 3 have come in the last 2 innings.
Sawed him off right back to the mound. And Lowe will end the inning. Pirates get a run back and the RBI double by Freese. 8 in the books here in Pittsburgh, and a throw out at the plate and a terrific relay. Yes, we are, Mick. 7-4 is our score here in Pittsburgh. Tigers on top by 3 as we go to the top of the 9th inning. And we've got a new pitcher now. Your boy AC is in the ball game.
Well, he's got a great arm. We saw that last night. He was throwing fastballs at 100, 101, and 102. But the Tigers, they put up quite a few runs against him last night.
Yeah, they got him for 4 earned runs. And Caminero facing Bobby Wilson to lead things off. Sack fly in his last at bat. And Wilson takes a ball that rides inside at 98. 2-0. First start of the year for Wilson after coming up from the minor leagues following the injury for James McCann, who, by the way, is on the road trip. McCann, we were mentioning last night, is being utilized by Brad Ausmus. He still compiles the scouting reports on opposing hitters. Here's the 3-0 pitch, and it's in there, a strike, 3-1.
And Brad's still making James earn his meal money, huh?
Absolutely. No sitting at home watching games on TV. Chopper left side of the infield. 1 gone here in the 9th inning. They follow Tigers baseball live with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet. Here's Andrew Romine. Shot to left field, base hit the other way.
Do it, Andrew.
Romine's first hit of the day, a single to left. And Mike Aviles will pinch hit for the pitcher spot.
See, that's what the Tigers did last night against Caminero. That fastball, 95, 97, got up to 100. They don't try to pull him. They will shorten up and they will take the hit the other way, as Romine did there. Miguel did it last night. Castellanos did it. And then the big one by Jared Saltalamacchia.
Here are the numbers last year for Aviles with the Cleveland Indians. .231 hitter, hit 5 home runs. Pirates have 5, 6, 7 to up when we head to the bottom of the 9th. Right now it's a 3-run spread.
Apparently, Ray Searage, the pitching coach, has gotten in the ear of Caminero today at some point in time and has told him that with a 99-mile-per-hour fastball, you probably should pitch inside a little bit more aggressively, because just about every fastball today has been inside, with the exception of the one that Romine hit the opposite way.
Aviles takes ball 2 high, 2-0. So Mark Lowe goes an inning and a third. Justin Wilson not available today for Hagen, pitching in the 7th, and Lowe came on to get an out in the 7th and then the 3 outs in the 8th. And so with the Tigers up by 3 right now, there's the closer, Francisco Rodriguez. Aviles waiting on a 2-1. Two and 2 on Mike. Kinsler will be next. Tigers broke camp this year with 2 guys that were, I guess, under the utility classification with Romine and Aviles. Oh. Mike Aviles tried to spin out of the way and couldn't get out of the way. And he'll take first base. Well, that gets back to your point about pitching inside.
Yeah, he's just not really comfortable doing it. I mean, he's got that low 3/4 arm slot in that ball right off the elbow. It's a good thing that he had some protection on that elbow.
There's Ray Searage on the right, their pitching coach. But Caminero came a little bit too far inside that time, and here's Ian Kinsler. 2 singles, a steal, a run scored, another productive day for the Tigers leadoff man. But what's new? Strike one.
Had a nice conversation with Clint Hurdle yesterday, and he was talking about his pitching coach, Ray Searage, and he said when he got the job here in Pittsburgh, Searage was already the pitching coach. He had only been there for a month, but they gave Clint Hurdle the opportunity to choose whoever he wanted for his pitching coach. He said he had a list of about 5 guys, but he interviewed Searage first, and he said he threw the list away. He said, I had my guy. He knew the organization.
Wow.
He was a hard worker. The guys were getting better, so he kept him, and he made a wise decision in keeping him.
Well, there is value to continuity and experience within the organization, which is what Searage had. Taps slowly back to the mound. Caminero. He'll get the out at first base. Runners advance. 2 gone. Well, it's April in the D Life-Size Checkers Sweepstakes. You can enter now for your chance to win a $100 grocery gift card and the chance to be a life-size checker. Go to www.foxsportsdetroit.com for your chance to win, and you could be a life-size checker. I think that's perfect for you, Rod.
Okay.
Here's Justin Upton. He'll roll it foul 0-1.
Man, he's got a heavy sinker, man. 97, 98. Just barreling in on the right-handed batters.
Caminero came out in the 6th inning, got 2 outs quickly, including striking out Upton, then a double, a walk, a single, and the grand slam from Saltalamacchia, which turned that game around.
His average fastball last year was 99 miles an hour. Only Chapman, Aroldis Chapman of the Cincinnati Reds at that time, averaged a fastball that was higher than Caminero.
Here's the 1-1.
Don't hurt nobody, big fella.
Starting to be a little bit uncomfortable now.
How very uncomfortable.
Think about the courage that it takes for these big league guys to stand in there against a guy throwing 100.
Trust me.
Oh, I just can't fathom it. That's fouled away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Tigers today have been out hit 14-9, but they lead 7-4. Two and two. Swing and a miss. He struck him out to end the inning. Tigers get a couple of base runners, lead 2 as we go to the bottom of the 9th. Frankie Rodriguez will try and nail it shut.
Here is the 1-800 call Sam call of the game, and we're going to give it to the birthday boy here today. That's Brad Ausmus, who turned 47 here today. Runners on first and second, clearly a bunting situation for Collins. Jaso at first base thought he was going to bunt, and he ripped a double right down Jaso, past Jaso into the right field corner.
One of the bigger hits in this ball game today. Tigers have a 7-4 lead as we go to the bottom of the ninth inning. Last call now for the Pirates, and the Tigers will bring in the closer, Francisco Rodriguez.
Now, Brad used him in a game last night, even though it was not a save situation. The reason for that is he wanted Rodriguez to get some work, to start to get his sea legs underneath him, to start to feel like he's pitching some pretty good baseball.
Andrew Romine will take over at third base. Ghost now is the new center fielder. And Jose Iglesias will come in to play short. And Frankie Rodriguez starts off the ninth inning with ball one, missing low to Gregory Polanco. 3 more outs and the Tigers can run their record to 6-2.
There was a time when Francisco came to the big leagues. He had a fastball that was in the mid-90s with a real good breaking ball.
That ball's popped up left side of the infield. Romine in foul ground, shading his eyes, and he dropped it. He was struggling with that from the get-go, and that'll be an error.
Well, you wonder if Wilson saw it, because it wasn't that far away from Wilson. And Romine, as you mentioned, struggling every step of the way.
So new life for Polanco. Bouncing ball back towards second. No damage done. 4-3 ground out, 1 away. And we check in now with Johnny Kane with the preview of today's Tigers Live.
Yeah, guys, we're going to be talking to Nick Castellanos. Had the 3-hit, 4 RBI afternoon. Other guys that had a big impact in this game: J.D. Martinez, Ian Kinsler, certainly Tyler Collins as well, and Jordan Zimmerman. Now 13 scoreless innings wearing a Tigers uniform. That, and of course, an interview with the birthday boy, as you called it. 47-year-old Brad Ausmus got to be pleased if they can finish this thing off to improve to 6-2. Mickey York, Craig Monroe back in the Call Sam studios. We're going to head back up to you to call the final 2 outs here, guys.
All right, Johnny, always fun to go into the clubhouse after a victory. The Tigers are 2 outs away from that, and there is ball 1 to Josh Harrison. Tigers have an 8-game road swing here, and it would be nice to begin with 2 victories, go to Houston, and then Kansas City. It'll be a foul ball just outside of the bag at third. Seven to 4. Tigers have the lead. 1 gone in the ninth.
I wanted to finish what I was saying about Rodriguez. I was talking about the fact that he used to have that 95-mile-per-hour fastball. Now he barely touches 90, but what he does have, he has a great changeup, a really good changeup.
Rolled foul.
And actually throws more changeups and breaking balls these days than he does his fastball. I was talking to Rich Doobie after his very first outing of the year, and he says the one thing that he would mention to him is the fact that everybody knows you have that good changeup, so people sit on the changeup. So you have to do something to speed the bats up by throwing a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, and then you slow guys down. So you speed them up, slow them down. You just can't continue to throw all changeups because they'll hit those changeups, so they'll start to look for them.
Which is seemingly what happened on opening night in Miami. When he gave up some runs in the ninth inning, the Marlins were tied before the Tigers won in extra innings. But it seems like a while ago now that Frankie Rodriguez was only 20 years old, won 5 games as a rookie in the 0-2 postseason for the Angels.
He was dominant.
Literally unhittable at that point in his career, and he was just, as we mentioned, 20 years old. He struck out 28 in the postseason that year. The Angels won the World Championship.
He was too young to be scared.
He was, really. Heading back toward the seats and out of play. For as good as he was that year, he finished third of the Cy Young voting when he recorded 62 saves for the Angels. A few years after that, a major league record 62 saves.
That record still holds, correct?
It does. Yeah, what a career he had with the Angels. Of course, the Tigers got him from the Milwaukee Brewers in November. Slapped down the right field line, again back toward the seats. .387 career saves for Frankie Rodriguez.
He is the active leader in saves with 387.
Again, the 2-2. 3-2 the count on Josh Harrison. Frankie has recorded 40 or more saves 5 different times in his career, and that's why he's piled up so many. And hopefully a bunch more for the Tigers this year. 3-2. Pulled foul. Got out in front that time. Turned into a 9-pitch at bat for Josh Harrison. It'll be a 10-pitch at bat for Josh Harrison.
Did you see where D. Gordon just a couple of days ago had a 16-pitch at bat and singled on the 16th pitch? I think it was the longest at bat in Marlins history. Fouled off 15, finally singling on the 16th pitch, and then he came around to score the winning run after that at bat.
Wow.
We saw him the first 2 games of the year. He's a good-looking young player.
Yeah, he's good. Well, there's another foul back out of play, so this at bat will continue. 16 pitches.
16.
I mean, that's got to drive you nuts if you're on the mound. And then they have that at bat end in a base hit. 3-2 on Harrison. Jordy Mercer will be next. And he's going to put this one in play. What a play there by Romine on the short hop. The ball was scalded to third, and Andrew makes a nifty play. 2 gone.
You have to have some quick reactions and reflexes over at third, especially on shots that are hit down in that direction off the bat of dead pull hitters.
Romine started the game at short, went to third with Iglesias coming into the game here in the 9th. One more out to get. Here's Jordy Mercer. Strike 1. Single to driving a run back in the 7th for Mercer. Nice pitch. 0-2. Mercer could not pull the trigger. Frankie 1 strike away now from shutting this one down.
Really quick pitched him. One more look at that nifty pick by Andrew.
was it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit high. Chop foul. One ball, two strikes. Tigers go to Houston. Milwaukee will be coming to Pittsburgh for a weekend series here. That'll get back out of play. Should Mercer reach, Stewart would follow. Tigers have 7 runs, 9 hits, and the Pirates 4 runs on 14 hits, but 12 stranded in this game. Ground ball left side of the infield, Romine, and that'll do it. Tigers take 2 from the Pirates, and they win it here today, 7-4. Tigers run their record as well to 6-2 on the new season. Castellanos a big day, and Frankie Rodriguez puts the final nail in the coffin. Here's your final 7-4. We'll be back.